Broadcasting to you live from the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North America, the United States of America, California, Los Angeles to be specific. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode, the same program rather, that we've been doing for the past 3.5 years here on the TNAM radio network here at thenewamericanmedia.com. Welcome everybody. This is the time where we talk about all of the crazy stuff happening in the world of geopolitics and conspiracies. My name's Brian Engelman. I am your host. Thank you so much for listening. What a show we have lined up for you with John B. Wells, formerly of Coast to Coast AM, now of Caravan To Midnight. Yes, it's going to be a blast. We sure hope we don't literally mean that, because ISIS is threatening all over the place. Yeah, what does it mean? Well, we're going to try to break it all down in just a second here, but first, I want to say if you missed our show earlier and you're interested in the NBA or the NFL or all things sports, we do a sports show called The Unhappy Hour. Check out all of our shows, all of our archived content at thenewamericanmedia.com. And at thenewamericanmedia.com on the bottom right is our Facebook and our Twitter feed. Like us and follow us. Follow us on Twitter at American_media_. And please click subscribe to youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. Yeah, it's been a crazy week. Our president has no plan. Have you seen that? Did you see the press conference? Oh my gosh, what a neat suit he was wearing. Wasn't that a neat suit? Wow, what kind of statement was he making with that suit? Are you kidding me? This is really a conversation we're having? While our southern border's wide open, while we have how many problems in this country? Yeah, let's talk about the president's suit. Nah, I'd rather not. I'd rather talk with John B. Wells, and I'd rather take your questions. If you want to send us something, comment on our Facebook page, or send us a direct message, or tag us on Twitter at American_media_, and we'll try to read some of these live on the air while we talk with Mr. Wells, who we're bringing in right now.
John Wells here.
Brian Engelman here. How you doing, sir?
How are you?
I'm living the dream. You're live on Agree to Disagree, and it's a pleasure having you back.
You know, I like the title of your show, Brian, but I've never found that we had to agree to disagree about anything, which I kind of like, you know.
Well, I'll tell you what, I did come up with one. It was sports. One of them was sports. The importance that I pay to it. It's my outlet. It's my soap opera. It's my reality TV. It's my disconnect from the crazy world of geopolitics. And you've abandoned sports a long time ago. That's the one area where our paths diverge in the woods, I suppose.
You know, I'd completely forgotten about that. I guess that's because I'm very fond of you, Brian. I'd completely forgotten about our divergent views on sports.
Hey, you know what? And that's the point. I can talk with a lot of Cleveland Browns fans that are not awake. I can talk to them about sports, and maybe I interject 1 or 2 points that might get them thinking, and they'll ask me a question later. Hey, you said something about, you know, this conspiracy thing regarding such and such. You know, in some ways, I think that maybe doing my sports show connects me with an audience that doesn't realize that there's a bunch of important stuff going on they might actually want to pay attention to. Aside from the fact that I played all the sports and I love sports, and, you know, I got the lovable losers, the Indians, Cavs, and Browns on my team, so, you know, one of these years we'll have a championship. But other than that, you know, yeah, we do agree a lot, and I want to talk to you about the name of your program. It's not called Agree to Disagree. You have an entire network. It is called Caravan To Midnight, and I want to get an update. I saw your Sizzler reel out there, and I guess let me ask you about your Sizzler reel in a different way. Tell the listeners a little bit about what you've been up to over the past few months, and kind of the things in store for them in the next few months, and how they could get connected with what you're doing over there. Because you left Coast to Coast, you know, earlier in the year, and we've been fans of yours for a couple of years. So, you know, catch everybody up on what you've been up to over there.
Well, thanks very much for the opportunity to do that, Brian. It's unlike anything that I really ever thought I would see in my career, which goes back, you know, over a couple of decades. And so what we've been doing is, I'll tell you, it's a program that it's changed me in a way, simply because instead of one night a week, in being able to, you know, kind of have a fragmented conversation. I did my best with all those commercial breaks, which you have to have when you're on terrestrial radio. I get it. But it tends to force a person to a host of a conversation to, have to interrupt somebody right in the middle of a really good point that they're trying to make, a salient moment in the conversation. So once a week was strong enough, but doing it 4 and sometimes 5, we obligated ourselves to our caravanners to do Monday through Thursday, but occasionally we'll do one on Friday as well. Sometimes we just put in an extra show, and I got to tell you, the information that's coming forward and speaking with all of these people, from Dr. Paul Craig Roberts to Brian Forster and L.A. Marzulli and so many others, and I don't want any of them to feel snubbed because I can't just reel off their names like this. So these great economists and like Joseph Meyer, just about the steadiest guy in the money analysis business I've ever spoken with. It is a real humanitarian experience. And what I mean by that is these people are going out on the clothesline with this information, in my opinion, at some measurable risk to themselves. Not all of them, but many of them. And it has brought an awareness of exactly the state of our perceived reality. Once the perceived reality is bad enough, but when you strip away the veneer and you really look at the true reality, it's as I like to say, enough to keep you walking on the side of your head every day of your life, all day long. So what we've been doing is just first and foremost is we want to deliver a quality program to the audience, and the audience is what supports us, enables us to do this. Without them, we will go away. And it would have been easier to just take the money and just be quiet and just keep it in the groove that the corporate-minded folks wanted it to be in. It was a dream come true to go to work on Coast to Coast. It was an absolute dream. I was a fan for, the better part of 20 years before. But, well, all right, 10, 15. But but the thing is that it just seemed to me that there were things that were so important to discuss that weren't really being discussed on any mainstream outlets, general terrestrial broadcast radio. I mean, some of the well-known names, Levin here. I mean, even Limbaugh. I can't say that I disagree with what those men are saying, but even they seem to stay in this one little groove. And because of the format that they're having to work with, they really don't get to have the long conversation. And I think that their guests, the few that they interview, it's mostly their opinion, and they'll take some calls. But when you give people an opportunity, people who know what they're talking about, to really say what they got to say it now, or it doesn't get said.
Forever hold your peace.
And that's when you start hearing some things that will just borderline freak you out. So we decided, okay, we have to do everything that we can to get the information out to people. It is. And so we got a YouTube channel, and we frequently post 30, 40-minute segments on there, just get people an idea of what we're doing. But if it's a particularly important issue, we'll put the whole show up there. We make sure the caravanners get it first, and 2 or 3 days go by before we put it up, make sure that they get it, and they get it first. That's it. And then we'll put it up there on YouTube and give it to the public. Whomever wants to see it, go there and see it for free. We also offer these programs if your budget's tight, or you really just like 1 or 2 shows, but you really don't want to obligate yourself, even at $15 per month for 3 months, and it's $30 for 6 and $60 for the year. It's cheap show by show. Well, you can buy just one show. They're 99 cents.
Yeah, $60 for the year. That's $5 a month. Everybody's that's the cost of a latte, a pumpkin spice latte.
Yeah, you get 16 shows in a 4-week month for $5, or you can buy them singly for 99 cents. But if that's your thing, we have a seat for you. And now, I'm actually quite excited about this. We have drawn ourselves into app world. Yes, we are developing the CTM App, which is in the approval process now, and then we'll beta test it. And I've seen this thing. I've got it on my own phone, and the crew has it, and it's a great app. It really is. You can stream or the show which will kind of eat into your data plan a little bit. But and we tell people that it's like it's going to be easier on your data plan if you just download this thing. But if you want to stream it, stream it. Just we trying to be fair and tell you it's going to take some bandwidth to get this streamed to you. Anyway, it's a groovy app. It does everything. It has a lot of features on it. It's very easy to navigate. It's a very cool app. So we're rolling that out for iPhone first. Should be available by the end of September easily. And then we're working on Android also, which want to have that platform covered as well. But more people use iPhone than Android, so we roll that out first.
No,
and that's kind of it, man, for right now.
No, it is very cool because you've been a guest on our program. I don't know what 2 years now, maybe even longer at this point. We've been talking since you first got your Coast gig. Whenever the heck that was.
I think it's been closer to 3, really.
Yeah, I just did my sports show with NBA scout Zach Barris. And yeah, he's been on for about 3.5 years, and it's like, God, I blink sometimes, and I turn around and I see all this distance between when I started and where I am now. And it's interesting how you said that the show changes you in a way. And I was wanting to ask you, have you found your filter changing in respect where you jump on and you're a member of a team? Now we're just going to we're going to do sports analogies all the time, John. I'm gonna bust you on this.
That's okay, man. I don't dislike sports at all. The only reason I stay away from them is because I become so fanatical. I blow my voice out if the Cowboys are playing in the Super Bowl. I'm just not doing that anymore. I mean, it's harder on me than it is on the players that are out there taking the beating.
Try being a Cleveland sports fan. We yell like nobody's business. No championships in my lifetime in any of the 3 major sports, but I digress. But what I was saying is, like, when you were on Coast, that was you jump in and you're a player on a team. You have a role to play. You don't play all the positions. You're not the head coach. You're brought in to be a wide receiver or to be an offensive tackle. Whatever your position is, you do your job. Now it's different. You are the CEO, the president, the GM. You're the quarterback. You're the defensive captain at middle linebacker. You're playing both sides of the ball. Have you found your filter change and the things that you're willing to say publicly change since you have taken this project on your own versus where you were coming from?
Well, yes. The short answer is yes. There is no filter, really. I like to stay within the realm of civility, but I don't mind talking about subjects that people just they want to stay away from them. They're too controversial. They're afraid of blowback. They're afraid of losing sponsors. Well, I don't want to lose any sponsors either because my sponsors are the Caravanners. So I mean that's who supports this whole initiative. The members. You talk about member-supported radio. This is member-supported radio. We don't have any rich uncles. We don't have any government funding and wouldn't take it if it was offered. And I mean that.
Well, because there are strings attached, and we all know that there are strings attached.
Well, I wouldn't take other people's money unless they said it was okay and they offered it. And speaking of which, do you know these people, these Caravanners, they are amazing. We have, I don't know how many, I'm not going to say hundreds, but I will say dozens, and that would be accurate. And I don't mean 1 or 2 either. I don't even mean 4 or 5. I mean lots of dozens of people who say, here's $160. No, it's not an error. Do not return. The $60 is for my year's membership. Do not return the $100. This is a donation. You're free to use this in any manner that you choose, whether it's to help pay a light bill or to give subscriptions to people who would like to have them but cannot afford them. We like what you're doing and we support you. I mean, man, you can't buy that. You can't rub the genie out of the lamp and get that. Somebody has to find value in what you're doing for that to happen, and they do. And it's like we are as loyal to them as they are to us, and that's really how I look at it. We try real hard. The only filter I have is that, and it's really my nature anyway. It's really not me, because without you, there is no me. So if you give and they give, then there's no taking, and that's exactly the groove that I want to stay in. The Caravanners give to us with their support. We give them everything we've got, so nobody takes anything. And with this whole thing in Ferguson, I thought was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And some of our brothers in the alternative media, I said on the program at least twice, I tend to repeat stuff, make sure everybody gets it, and they're like, John, we get it. You said that before. I'm sure somebody's thinking
hey,
that.
do enough hours of content, you're going to use some of your stories and anecdotes more than once. That's par for the course.
Yeah, that's just kind of what happens. But it's like looting and pillaging is not emblematic of justice. That's emblematic of injustice and savagery. And some of our brothers in the alternative news media, I've said, this is the thing that I've said several times, it's just like the cops. I've told the cops, listen, don't get the idea that I'm bashing cops. Cops commit acts of heroism every day. They really do crawl into a car that's leaking gas, like Dylan did in Crash, where that black woman's about to be set alight. And he was a racist ass to her at the beginning of the picture. But he crawls in there, and that thing's leaking gas, and she's like, don't touch me. He's like, listen, it's cool. And he pulls her out. That's the real thing. That's real humanity. These cops, they do that stuff. But every once in a while, you get some pigs that'll do something like beat Kelly Thomas, that mentally retarded kid, to death out in California. That's just wrong. Well, they were tried for that and beat the rat. That was justice denied. So I tell them, your job is harder than even you think it is, because you guys have to police yourselves. You have to be prepared to be that Serpico who's willing to let somebody try and shoot him in the head because you know your department's dirty and it's wrong and you didn't sign up for that. And when you took that oath, you meant it. You meant it in your heart, in your gut, in your soul. You meant it. So, and it's the same way with the guys who are putting out information, the guys and girls that are putting out information that potentially could change things. It could drive people to action. So we don't want to encourage anyone to take an unrighteous or unjust or dangerous or reckless action. But what I saw going on in Ferguson was a bunch of people trying to attract viewers. Actually trying to goad the police into roughing up some of their reporters so they could get it on video and make a big deal out of it. Oh, Ferguson is the center of the New World Order. Oh, Ferguson's the center of the police state. Oh, Ferguson's the center of martial law. There's a martial law center set up down there. It's like, what did you expect the cops to do? Just let these idiots burn the whole place down? Of course they're going to show, listen, we got these great big things over here, and we're going to clobber you with them if you don't knock it off. Now, that one idiot that was out there waving his machine gun around going, I'll bleep and kill you and all that, he was just an out-of-control dumbass that, that's the last guy you'd want. And I said this on the show, that's the last guy I'd want in my foxhole because he's liable to shoot the wrong people. Just flip out and shoot somebody.
Now, you're talking about
one of those guys.
You're talking about the police officer with the shotgun aiming it at the crowd, right?
No, it was worse than that. It was a guy with an M4, probably semi-automatic, but it might have been a machine gun. He's going, I'll bleeping kill you, and he's looking around like he's panicked, like he just doesn't know where he wants to go. He looked like one of those horses that, in a depiction in one of those paintings of 19th century warfare. The thing's leaping over a ditch, and his eyes are like bugging out, and he doesn't know where he's going. He just knows he's going. He's just wild with fear and adrenaline. That's where this guy was. You don't need that guy as a cop.
Yeah, that's the last thing.
They relieved him of duty. He can't handle the stress. He's liable to kill the wrong people, if it really gets down to it. So, but the exceptions like that cannot become, to use that word again, emblematic of the whole force. When you see people like... where was it we were watching those not too long ago where the cops are just beating everybody, they're in their riot gear, and it wasn't in this country, thank God, but they're just wailing on women, guys, whatever, in the face, on the head, in the back, kicking them and shoving them and all this. I think it might have been Greece. I
was thinking that was my first guess. I would have said Greece when all that stuff hit the fan.
But you see what happens when the crowd goes against them. They run like hell.
Oh, yeah, there's a great graphic that I post at the New American Media on our Facebook and Twitter from time to time. and it says, remember the power you have, and there's like this plank, there's this long wooden board hanging over the edge of a cliff, and the people there with their signs and their support are standing anchoring this thing together while a politician dangles out there over the edge on their podium at their lectern, and a couple people have started to walk away. And you get the point. If you walk in another direction, the politics crash and burn because they're supposed to either support you or they need to crash and burn because that's not the point of a republic. The people are supposed to have the power there.
That's correct. And we would do well to remember this, and I think many of us have forgotten. It is, it's very distressing to me to see these events unfold right before our eyes, and yet I'm not sure if it's the perception or the reality that so many Americans are asleep. I'm not sure as many Americans are asleep as we might think. I think and I pray that many, many more of them are awake than we could possibly imagine. Because we're starting to see the sheriff's departments in a couple of places, been a couple of stories in the past two days of sheriffs going, we don't need this stuff. We're going to give this stuff back to the Pentagon.
Yeah, the MRAPs. I mean, they have the vehicles that are patrolling Afghanistan and Iraq being sent here and onto our streets. These no-knock raids for low-level criminal offenses. Flashbang grenades and busting babies in the face and permanent damage and killing the wrong people. And it's the militarization of the police. And this is what you and I talked about on Coast after the Kelly Thomas verdict earlier this year. The militarization of the police is a frightening thing. And yes, there were some idiots that were out there in Ferguson that were causing trouble. That was obvious. But on the same token, arresting journalists inside of a McDonald's or whatever that was, you can't be doing that. Rolling in town like you're an invading force in World War II Germany. Like you're rolling in and just, I'm claiming this now. It seemed like a military takeover. And you have the police acting differently than the local law enforcement. And obviously what happened in Ferguson needed some reinforcements, but that shouldn't be the local police force. That should be a National Guard. That should be something separate from your police force. And
I couldn't agree more.
Because it's dangerous. The military sets their sights on enemies, and the police are there to protect and serve. But when the police become militarized, they see everybody as a threat. Everybody's a nail that needs to be hammered down.
Well, Brian, while I agree with you on that, I'm quite a bit older than you are, so I can tell you that it was horrifying when those 4 kids got shot dead up at Kent State, Ohio, back in the late 60s, and the National Guard did it. And there was no call for any of that. And this country came very close to going into revolution then, and it's close to going into revolution now, and these idiots up there know it. All of this stuff now about, conspiracy theorists, you're crazy, the government wouldn't do that. Get this one. Yesterday, I spoke with John F. McManus, and I thought he was, he was an author, and okay, here we go, and there it says, the president of the John Birch Society. And I thought, wow, well, excellent. So he came on the program, and I said, would you, a lot of people think, the John Birchers, those Birchers, they're like the Ku Klux Klan, they're like radical, they're like crazy, they're like Lyndon LaRouche and all these dudes, I said, would you just clear us up on this stuff? And he said, he was very articulate and just excellent, and the long and the short of it is that John Birch was in China. The American volunteer group, the Flying Tigers, Claire Chennault, wanted him to join up. Okay, and as I remember the story, it was like, well, I'd be happy to be your outfit's pastor. And he said, well, I don't need a pastor. I got a pastor. I need a guy like you to get stuff done, because he had rescued somebody or something happened. Anyway, cut a long story short, and it is a long one. John Birch remained in China because at the end of World War II, this guy Mao Zedong had taken power. They kicked out Chiang Kai-shek, and here came Mao. And they wanted to find out, what's the deal? Who are communists? I mean, are the communists, are they for, they're saying they're communists. Are they for us or are they against us? Well, John Birch was murdered, and that sent them by Chinese soldiers or operatives. And a Chinese guy that was with him, they thought that he was left for dead as well, but he survived and was able to come back and tell that everybody that no, they're not for us. They're most assuredly against us. Therefore, John Birch became the first fatality of the Cold War. And the John Birch Society is nothing but Constitution-loving, traditional American values-loving, educating people about the way this country is supposed to run. Now, when I was a kid, and I mean a little kid, I would hear every once in a while somebody say, "Oh yeah, they're a Bircher," you know. And it's like, well, what's the deal with the Birches? And my parents were sort of like, yeah. My dad didn't say anything. My mom was like, oh, you know, they're kind of fringe, radical stuff. That's because in those days our parents trusted the government. They trusted the news. They trusted that this country was in good hands. The ship is afloat. There are no nefarious undercurrents of activity going on at all. It's all, we are a free republic. So that's why they rejected the Birchers. And the Birchers the whole time were going, this Federal Reserve System is crazy. We are involving ourselves in all kinds of wars that we have no business doing, starting with the Korean War right after World War II, and then Vietnam was soon to follow and all that. And that's why they were perceived as fringe, because they were already watching the government turn into what we now behold today. In the same way, this police state thing is real. This is not some sort of wild BS biker acid trip dream of, you know, monsters and spookies coming after us. How is it we can sit here and we have no privacy? And I've been saying this for years, Brian, it's just been revealed in the last 2 or 3. I've known this for years, that they can see you through your computer camera. I've known for years that every fax, email, telephone call, cell, landline, whatever, it's all recorded. I've known this for years. People thought I was nuts. They really did. Well, they're finding out now that I wasn't. And that's, okay, there's some validation. Thank you. I knew I wasn't nuts, but I'll sleep better at night knowing that you don't think I'm crazy.
Right.
And it gets worse, brother. Where the hell did ISIS come from? Well, it came from the same place that Lee Harvey Oswald, the assassin of John Kennedy, and Osama bin Laden, the bastard that brought down the Twin Towers. Same place those two came from, the CIA.
Okay,
CIA
hold on.
trained ISIS in Jordan.
Let me pause on ISIS, because this is a mouthful. What we're about to get into, this is a whole separate chapter, and I wanted to add this because I started laughing a second ago. Yeah, I was the crazy guy saying, no, I don't want a camera looking back at me. That's nuts. Oh, nobody can see you. You have to be logged in. Sure you do. And when I went, and I think I was at a Sprint store, and I talked with the guy. He's like, yeah, they can plug this in. They can listen to you whenever your phone is on. If your battery is not out of your phone and the backup reserve juice has not been spent, you can be listened to as well as traced with GPS. And I'm looking at my Samsung Galaxy with a little piece of electrical tape covering off my spy camera shooting back at me, and it's on a piece of paper so it can't see underneath or on the other side. I'm looking at my laptop, my Mac over here, and it says Apple Shift 3. It's just my reminder of how to take a screenshot, but it's covering up the spy camera. Yeah, you and me, we've been aware of this stuff for a long time, and I wanted to toss this at you before we moved into ISIS. I just read a book. You might have heard of this author, Dan Brown. He's written a couple of books.
Yeah, maybe so. Not at this moment, Brian. I'll just be honest with you.
Angels and Demons, Da Vinci Code, etc.
Oh, yeah, I got it. Sorry. Yes, I know who you mean.
He wrote. It's all right. That wasn't meant to be a gotcha. Gotcha.
No, it's all right, man. You can
debate.
get me on a number of topics. If I don't know, I'll just tell you.
No, but Dan Brown, and I'm a big fan of his work, but I went back to one of his earlier books. It's called Digital Fortress. And I believe, if I looked at it right, because sometimes they reprint, but it looks like this was written in 1999, before he got famous with the Da Vinci Code. And this book, Digital Fortress, is about a virus, about an encryption technique that was being sold on the black market from a former NSA employee who despised that the NSA was violating our Fourth Amendment protected, constitutionally protected rights to privacy, and so it became this cat and mouse game of sabotage and intrigue, and the clock is ticking down on this virus that's going to destroy all of the NSA's data. And it's interesting because 1999, pre-September 11th, who the heck was talking about that stuff? It's a great book if you get the chance, because while it might be 15 years old, it's very relevant today. I just finished it, and I was astonished because you easily read this book and you go, oh, that's Edward Snowden. Oh, that's Snowden, a decade and a half before Snowden. Okay, so other people knew about the NSA, that's standing for No Such Agency. That's only become part of our lexicon, part of the common knowledge experience in 2014. It's very recent, the past few years, where people are aware that we're being spied on. You and me have been hip to this for a while. That Dan Brown book, Digital Fortress, is a great read if you have a second. But I just want to toss that at you because a lot of us have been awake to this for a while, and that's probably one of the underlying things that have driven us to keep seeking truth, knowing that we're not getting the real story, which leads us back to ISIS.
Well, Ray Bradbury was even closer. Let me tell you, if you want a shock, go back and read Fahrenheit 451. Virtually everything that he wrote, with the exception of the very end of the book, which may yet come to pass, it's all come to pass. This guy was a true visionary, perhaps one of the greatest visionaries ever. And it is positively frightening. And then when you finish reading the book, it'll only take you, if you just are a casual reader, and I'll just knock out a few chapters. It goes by really quick. You can finish it you can do the whole book in an afternoon, or spread it out over 2 nights and just really digest it. And then when you're done, go back and look at the copyright date. Save that for last, and prepare to be freaked out big time.
Yeah, 1984. Go back to the Bible. I mean, go back to lots of works, and we've been warned enough. It's just, there's something about the human condition. We have to screw it up ourselves in order to fix it, it seems like. I don't know if it's just the recurring video game that we're in, this matrix of, we think this is real, but it's really just a simulation. Our avatar's somewhere else, and our soul's getting experiences. I don't know if any of that's true or not, but it doesn't make any sense otherwise. I just feel like I'm a lunatic in normal society, or I'm the one sane person in an insane asylum.
Well, I know what you mean, and I'll toss something that may be slightly, may be viewed as possibly, maybe ever so slightly insane, but ask ourselves a question, and that is, why do the UFO guys always run from us? Unless they come in the middle of the night, and there have been abductions, and there have been implants, and there is a lot of stuff going on, it's well known. It's well known that this has happened. This isn't woo-woo anymore. This is for real. Too many people have seen them. Too many people have seen the craft. Too many people have seen this stuff, and too many of their stories have been verified as being, it's true. It appears, and we don't know what this is. Why do they always run from us? I believe it's because they can't. It is a spiritual situation, I believe. Now, this may strike some people as being, oh, man, what a Neanderthal. What kind of primitive thinking is this? But what if it were true that they really can't defeat us, but they can cause us to defeat each other? That's high-level spiritual warfare, where you don't engage. That's the ultimate psyop, is if you have 2 enemies out there, but you get them to turn on each other, and you don't have to raise a gun, you don't have to raise a hand, you don't have to raise your voice. You just work it to where they go at each other, like 2 dogs that normally get along real well. But now the yard man has showed up, and he's on the other side of the fence, and they can see this, and they want to bite him because he's making them mad, he's making them nuts, and they're both barking, and they want to get at him, and they can't, so they turn on each other. That's the ultimate method of waging war. You don't even get dirty. You just watch your enemies destroy each other.
And is that what we were talking about with the CIA and with ISIS then? Because I watched it. Are you familiar with Storm Clouds Gathering?
Yes.
Yeah, because they just put out a video. I watched it today. Interesting to kind of go back through the history of what is IS, ISIL, ISIS, whatever we want to call this thing. I mean, it's CIA. You go back and who puts who in power, and then when they're of no use, then how do you throw them out with the trash? Is that, I feel like the war drums are being beaten again, and I don't want to get duped into another Iraq. Like, I really feel like That's exactly where we're at. They couldn't get Syria with air quote chemical weapons, and now here we are. Was James Foley, was that a legit video? Was that staged? Was that faked? There are so many questions out there. People don't trust a lick of what's coming from our government now because the CIA's been playing these games for so long. We're hip to it.
Well, that's absolutely right, and we know that CIA and what we used to call the Mafia would they work together all the time, and for various reasons, including there's no paperwork to fill out. You need a boat, you need a shooter, you need a plane, you need transport, you need a favor, you need something. We'll do you a little favor, you do us a little favor. Because the underworld is the underworld, and a lot of these people bump into each other all the time, you know. So we get all that. But the problem is when they get to where they're sleeping with each other, not only sleeping with each other, but they're taking long, warm showers together into the wee hours of the morning. And that's what we have now. And you got CIA. This is just my opinion. I can't prove it, but this is what I think as an amateur analyst. In other words, I'm not being paid for it. Or maybe I am. Maybe I am. Well, we have subscribers to Caravan, so okay, I'm an analyst. If I were going to just throw out my theory, it would be this. Step one, 14 aircraft disappear about 4 weeks ago from Austrian air traffic radar. 14 over
That's
Austria
right.
and over two other bordering countries for 25 minutes.
Thank you for reminding me of that. That was relevant then, and it's another puzzle piece. It's another dot to connect. Thank you.
Yep, it is. Now, then what happens? Then somewhere around that time, the Malaysian flight goes down. Then we start hearing about Ebola. Then the big border wave, the big migrant surge. Okay, and then we're talking to people about, and then ISIS. All of this happens all within just like 3-4 weeks. And what I'm thinking is this. These ISIS guys are making something like $80 million a day, selling their oil on the black market for, $50 a barrel. Less, maybe, 30, who knows? So they're well funded, and they're committed. Who are these guys? Just saw on Fox News, which is like becoming more and more of a joke, although I do think Megan's cute. They tried to tart her up a little bit, and it didn't work, so I think she probably put her foot down and said, I want to go back to looking the way I was before I interviewed Bill Ayers in my goth Nazi suit with my outer space hairdo. But anyway, they say estimated troop strength of ISIS between 10 and 50,000. Really? Well, you've got 40,000 potential soldiers in there to play with. Are you sure we can't narrow it a little more than between 10 and 50,000? Why don't you just say literally leave off the 1,000, just say between 10 and 50,000. So I mean, it's just stupid. So now, what's all over Drudge right now? Feds warn attack on at the southern border imminent. Car bombs, get ready to go.
Hold on. I have this pulled up. And I have the same exact story. Islamic terrorist groups are operating in the Mexican border city of Ciudad Juarez and planning to attack the United States with car bombs or other vehicle-borne improvised explosive devices. High-level federal law enforcement intelligence and other sources have confirmed to Judicial Watch that a warning bulletin for an imminent terrorist attack on the border has been issued. Agents across a number of Homeland Security, Justice, and defense agencies have all been placed on alert and instructed to aggressively work on all possible leads and sources concerning this imminent terrorist threat. Yes.
First question, Brian.
Yes.
Why in the hell would they release a piece of information like that rather than just quietly go down there and clobber it? Why would they release such a thing to the world?
I've thrown my hands up on geopolitics. I don't know why our southern border is wide open, except that they want it open. And why do they want it open? Great question. Do they need another 9/11 to finish us off and take the rest of our civil liberties away? Is that what we're preparing for? And while they were playing daycare on the left hand, the right hand was bringing in the weapons and bringing in the dirty bombs and bringing in the bad guys that are all in 20 different cities. And I don't know, pick some fantastic numerical time of day. Everything's going to go to haywire. Go to hell, and all the power grid's going to go down, and then all the streets are going to be shut down, and then Okay, I can stop now. I think you get the point.
How many countless millions of people have experienced that very scenario you have just described and are wondering, when in the hell is America going to get their little taste of it so they can see what their government has been doing to us for decades? Listen, these people have been running rogue for decades. I talked to Roger Stone the other day, genius writer. You know, he was inside, I don't know, two or three presidential elections.
That's the JFK?
Inside. Huh?
Was he the JFK author?
Yeah. He was the man who killed Kennedy, the case against LBJ, and he's got a new one out now called, it's going to be released on September 9th, which I believe is the 50th anniversary of Nixon resigning, if I have the date right. I think it's coming out September 9th.
Yeah, I've heard him. It's a hell of an interview, and it's very cogent. It's very precise data that he's spewing. You know, you might come to a different conclusion somehow at the end, but he knows his stuff. Absolutely.
You should hear this stuff about Nixon. I'm telling you, it would be worth just getting the one episode if somebody didn't want to commit to joining Caravan even for $15. Come on, $15 really. He explains how all of these guys have known each other for decades. They're all in it. It's one big cabal. Now get this, let me throw something else into the mix. Yesterday, I was looking at a piece of video. I just followed link after link after link. I don't even know where it showed up. But if you were to, you could probably Google it. I can probably find it. But anyway, a guy in Central America was being interviewed by a very well Spanish-spoken journalist who was asking him, what's the deal with the kids, the children, the immigrant children? It's all being slowed down now. You know, the trains aren't carrying all these kids hanging off the top of the thing. And what's up? And his response was, I think it's because the United States is running it, and there are radio and television commercials now telling people, don't do this, don't try to go north, don't try and cross the American border. And he said, no, what's happening now is that the kids that are trying to do it, the police and the military show up and they grab them, and they just grab these kids like they're nothing, like they're just, a bag or something. They just throw them into the back of the truck and they're taken off and, beaten poopless and all of this. But the key point is that the United States did run it. This is all just a little bit too coincidental to have been in any way, shape, or form some kind of an accident. Obi-Wan Kenobi says, in my experience, there's no such thing as coincidence. Well, I be John Kenobi, and I say, Obi-Wan, it's all coincidence, babe. It's accidents that don't exist. This is no accident. These are not a bunch of morons. These people know exactly what they're doing. We saw what happened when Bundy bowed up against the BLM and the Fed.
I went down there. I covered it with Blake, and it was intense. It was very intense. Seeing that picture with the militiaman or whoever that guy was up on the overpass with a sniper rifle in between two of the little dividers. It was tense. I couldn't believe it came to that, and somehow we survived a shot being fired, just like in Ferguson, where it didn't go absolutely haywire.
Well, maybe that was the hand of the Lord. You never know. But I'd like to think that it was, but maybe it was just maybe a little bit of common sense prevailed, because they realized. See, that's what happens when you bow up to a bully and go, well, all right then, just step right up, tough guy, and let's just go together. Go ahead, show me what you got. And they go, well, oh, you're not so sure now? Then why don't you haul your ASS out of here and don't come back? And that's what they do. So these guys are running out of time to get their agenda put forward. That horrible man, Henry Kissinger, is putting out World Order. His new book, I believe, is coming out on September 9th as well. And this guy is no Boy Scout. These are serious cats. All of them are serious cats. They'll snuff you out at like you would relieve your bladder. They don't care about human life. They are used to routinely expending tens and hundreds of thousands of lives for their financial objective, and that's all it is. It's about control and the money that goes with it. Lots and lots of money. The action is the juice for Michael in the old movie Heat, but for these guys, the power is the juice. because with the power, everything else is possible. Like that Russian, this English banker says to him, "You're insane." He goes, "No, I do what I like. The vast sums of money make everything possible." That's how these guys think. We don't think that way, but they do, because they've been in that culture generation after generation, decade after decade. I mean, they are stained with this. They are steeped in this mentality, and they don't care about us.
Just a little, yeah, George Carlin. They don't give a F about us. They don't give an F about. It's a private club, and we're not in it. No, I have
well,
this.
That's right.
I have this Kissinger article from Wall Street Journal. Just a little taste to give people an idea of exactly what you're referencing here. One paragraph says, "The clash between the international economy and the political institutions that ostensibly govern it also weakens the sense of common purpose necessary for world order. The economic system has become global, while the political structure of the world remains based on the nation-state. Economic globalization, in its essence, ignores national frontiers. Foreign policy affirms them, even as it seeks to reconcile conflicting national aims or ideals of world order." Oh, we're conspiracy theorists for reading their words and talking about their words. We're crazy, right? Yeah.
They might as well just throw it out there now. This has all been calculated, but they're running out of time, because they really thought everybody was going to roll over for that Bundy Ranch deal, and they didn't. And you know what? Harry Reid was going to make money by doing a deal with the Chinese on a solar farm out there, as you may already know.
Oh yeah, we were trying to
broker the deal. Pelosi's husband.
Oh, because okay, Pelosi's husband. He's come up from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
These rats need to be flushed down the gigantic toilet. We need to hit the big chrome handle on all of them. And here's the thing: we can do this, but these guys are running out of time. Now, let's go back to that analyst role I was playing a minute ago, Brian. In my view of the world, 14 aircraft dropping off the scope for 25 minutes, I call that a dry run. Now, let me just ask a question. Let's say that that's not true. Okay, let's not go all alarmist and crazy. I don't want to scare anybody, but I do kind of want to alarm them to the possibility. What do we think would happen to the U.S. economy if we hear a report that an airliner has crashed? Then the next thing we hear about an hour and a half later is it may have been brought down by a terrorist rocket. Now we hear 5 minutes after that another plane has come down. Well, I'll tell you, the first thing that would happen is that your 17,000 plus Dow Jones industrial average would go to about 1,700 if you're lucky, and 170 if you were unlucky that day. The next thing that would happen is TSA and DHS would deploy in force, and there's your martial law. And you ask yourself, why would they do such a thing? To collapse the economy, because the dollar isn't collapsing fast enough. Now, Alex Jones comes on and says, the InfoWars store is, I do a pretty good Alex Jones, the InfoWars store is now accepting Bitcoin for purchases, the InfoWars store. Within a couple of days, he had a story on there about, is Bitcoin a conspiracy? When I first heard about Bitcoin, I don't remember if it was a year ago or 2 years ago, I said, well, it seems to me that this is newsworthy. J.P. Morgan Chase, it is reported, is working on their own version of the Bitcoin. This is after I said, it seems to me like a digital currency like that would be the ultimate global currency. And imagine how much easier it would be to steal money. I mean, if you want to steal $50 million, you better bring yourself some help, because that's a lot of bulk. That's a lot of bulk. Now, you know, 50 million in bearer bonds, which means that whoever is carrying them, that's their money. There ain't no name on it. If you're bearing the bonds, they're yours. That's why you can steal bearer bonds, and as long as they don't catch it, they're untraceable, right? Anyway, it is the new global currency. The iris reading technology that we've all been hearing about, guess where it was deployed a year ago? Mexico. Well, guess who's got the first digital currency about to be deployed? Venezuela. they always deploy these new technologies in a foreign country. Always.
That's Mr. Hugo down there, our good buddy.
Yeah, well, he's gone, you know.
Well, but his legacy lives on.
Well, we're not gone. I mean, I think there's a reason that the Bushes and some others have bought vast swaths of property down around Uruguay and Paraguay, and probably some in Bolivia as well, Venezuela, Argentina, stuff like that. Maybe it was Argentina that's going to the. If you got Drudge in front of you, the story's on there. I like Drudge. I think Matt Drudge is a hero of journalism. He put together that fantastic aggregate website that's got stuff from all over the world. There's not enough hours in the day. There's not enough hours in the month to go through even one day's worth of material he's got on there. He's got everybody listed on the lower left down at the bottom. I've never met him. You know, he doesn't send me any money. I'm not a shill for Matt Drudge. I thought it was an interesting tweet he sent out recently. I think it was a 4-word tweet that said, "Have a backup plan." And that was it. I think Matt is correct.
I think he is too.
I think we're late.
And the Drudge Report has really helped me. You know, if you need a one-stop shop to quickly compare 200 different things. What's that Mitch Hedberg joke? I love rice. I don't know. I'm just going to screw it up. But he says, rice is really great when you're hungry and want 4,000 of something. You know, Drudge is great when you just want to go through 100 or 200 stories really quick. And the one you were talking about right here, off of AP.org, it says Ecuador is planning to create what it calls the world's first digital currency issued by a central bank, which some analysts believe could be a first step toward abandoning the country's existing currency, the U.S. dollar.
Yep, and they're already doing it in Africa, too. They're deploying sub-Saharan Africa. They're deploying these cards that you do absolutely everything with. You don't carry any cash at all. You just carry this card. Yeah, Ecuador. I missed that by a couple of countries, but I'm glad you picked it up.
That's all. Hey, you know what? I'll be the wingman sometimes, and sometimes we got to switch seats. That's how it rolls.
Hey, I got the continent right. Yeah? Okay.
yeah, close enough. The general region. No, that's fine. Yeah, and that's the concern. That's the one world government. That's the one. You cannot exist. You cannot buy or sell unless you get the chip, the mark of the beast, the thing, the... I don't want digital currency. I've been a bartender my whole life. I like to exchange things without a paper trail of... Okay, another Mitch Hedberg joke. I went into a store the other day to get a donut from a donut shop. I handed the guy $1 and he handed me a donut. He gave me a receipt for the donut. I said, "No, man. Just give me the donut and keep the money. There is no need to bring ink and paper into this equation. I cannot imagine a scenario where I would have to prove to someone that I purchased a donut." Now, as innocuous as a donut is, the idea of constantly being tracked and traced is beyond creepy.
If you want to see how bad we're being tracked and traced, you need to see this movie if you haven't seen it already. You know, you probably already have. And you can get it on Netflix, where I saw it. It's called Terms and Conditions May Apply. You sit through this thing, and you're going to slap your palm up against your forehead and go, "But it's so much worse than even I thought." Oh, yeah, it is. Look, every keystroke, the computing power that's available now to these people is beyond imagination. There was just an article recently, within the last 48 hours, that robots are like a little the range of a butterfly sneeze away from being killer robots and must be stopped now.
Yeah, and I just saw that a new cruise liner, I was actually listening on the radio this morning, and they said that a new cruise liner, they're having robot bartenders now. It's happening. And one of the commentators, one of the hosts on the show said, "No, I don't like robots. I don't trust robots. I've watched the movies. You know what happens. Eventually they get too smart and they turn on us." I mean, Terminator, it's and then you go back to Edgar Casey and Atlantis and Lemuria and Egypt, and you just go, have we done this before? Have we crashed and burned through this type of technology before, where we don't value human life and the objects become things that are quasi-human and human become things? And it just seems like we've been here before, like we've done this before, like we should know better, and we're just running headfirst into it without even looking around.
Yeah, it's beyond anything that I ever thought that we would see. You know, I miss my parents every day, but I'm so happy they don't have to see this. I really am. That's a hell of a thing to say, but I'm so happy that they don't have to endure watching everything that they knew that this country was or thought that it was be revealed as just one big stinking pile of greed and worse, avarice, the willingness to screw people over to accumulate things. You know, greed's bad enough. That just means you want stuff. But avarice, your willingness to throw somebody under the bus to accumulate wealth, that's dangerous. That's the ultimate vanity. And that's where we are now. So these guys, you're going to see these attacks. We brought this guy. We went back and forth trying to figure out. I say this guy. I don't say that disrespectfully. He's a man's man.
I don't think this guy is disrespectful. We got a lot of things bouncing around our heads. But go ahead. Who's this guy?
Well, his name's Tosh Plumley, and I was going, okay, CIA contract pilot, knows this, knows that. Yeah, all right, okay, fine. We'll talk to him. Get your microscope out and check it out. So we checked him out as well as we could, and much of what he says we verified as being true, and some of these things he couldn't know unless he was in a position to know. And we know some guys who are in a position to know, and they said, yeah, but that's it. Yeah, he was a contractor. That's it. That's all they'll say. Okay, fine. Well, the moment that I saw that Benghazi thing go down, which I want to say was on Wednesday or Thursday, as soon as I got into the chair on Saturday night, I was like, does this look funny to anybody but me? Because this looks to me like an arms deal that went bad. This looks like payback. And they brought their little flag with them and everything, and the battle went on for 11 hours, and nobody showed up to help them. And then in subsequent shows, it was like, the only reason that the military doesn't show up to rescue a couple of SEALs and an ambassador who is under assault at a CIA annex, which means they took over the building, is what that means. It's not like an extra wing on your house, but it sounds that way to us, a CIA annex. First it was the embassy, and then it was a CIA annex.
I'm glad you made that distinction, because the word annex is a very bizarre word. I don't use that word on a daily basis. Oh, the CIA annex. Oh, it's the wing of the thing. Nope. They took it over. They annexed it.
Yeah, they took it over. It was Crimea. A safe house, is what it was. It's a pretty good one, as it turns out.
Yeah, think Russia. Think Crimea. Think Ukraine. We're going to annex this now. We're going to take it.
That's it.
Okay. All right, I follow.
You've got it.
Yay!
So the only reason that they don't show up to save them is because they want them to get whacked. All of them.
Absolutely.
I've heard everything from, well, they were actually after the SEALs because they'd been running around the countryside trying to get the tribes to, work with them and work against other tribes, stuff like that. And I thought, bollocks. Nice try, pal, but I'm not buying it. Okay, and I didn't say that to him, of course, but I just let him say his piece, and that was it. And but he wouldn't say it. He wouldn't say it on the program. He just said it to me. And of course I've slept since then, so I can't even remember who told me that. But anyway.
But the point is, you didn't buy it. You knew it stunk to high hell. By the time you got on coast, you were there.
Plumley says that the rockets, those were Stinger missiles, is what we're talking about. And it was, in my opinion, and always has been, the Stinger missiles what took down SEAL Team 6 after the so-called bin Laden raid, which in my opinion was a complete farce and a lie. And it's just so convenient, Well, let's see. First it was 2 helicopters went in, and then when people figured out, and I'm like, are you telling me that one of the helicopters screwed up? So all the guys that rode in on that one just got on the remaining one, and everybody flew away. Really? Well, why didn't they just take one to begin with, if everybody would fit on board the aircraft? Okay, so then it became 3 helicopters. Oh, yeah, there you go. And then they dump the old boy's body into the ocean, give him a proper Muslim burial, no pictures, and then the SEAL team that took him out, they all die by being shot at with what they said was an RPG, a rocket-propelled grenade, the thing that's on the wooden stick. I mean, they were using wooden sticks forever. They're a lot better now than they used to be, trust me, but they don't do the work of a Stinger, and that's what took down that Chinook, in my opinion. Can I prove it? No. Do I think it? Yes. Why? Because I've spent years reading Jane's Defense Weekly and reading narrations for I don't know how many dozens of military companies, from Raytheon and TI to Boeing and Rockwell and Lytton Ingalls Shipbuilding, even some what you would call a not a black ops company, but a black company that made stuff that was specifically for that community, and you would have to sign the paper that you wouldn't talk about it. And I trained myself in those days, where it would take a big shot of sodium pentothal for me to even be able to remember the title of the script. I literally trained myself on these particular things to I couldn't even tell you the title of the script or what the content was, and the thing went on for 2 hours, and I can't remember any of it because I wasn't supposed to remember any of it, because in those days I took it seriously, and I just deleted it from my memory. Maybe somebody could bring it back, but I couldn't, not consciously. And this probably sounds like rubbish and made up, but it's not. It's true. I mean, when I talk to you, and I know this is going to live forever on the internet, I'm not going to put out a bunch of hooey. I mean, I'll tell you the truth, or I won't say anything.
And we have opinions, and we think that we smell a rat, and can we... You know, Ferguson, we don't have the facts. We just don't have the facts. We have a couple ideas of what may or may not have happened. That's it. We don't know yet. You know, we think Benghazi stinks to high hell. You and I have been railing on that as soon as we heard the story. We knew it didn't make sense. Can we prove exactly what happened just yet? No. So it's going to live forever that we had doubts about the air quote official story. I don't think there's any harm at all in questioning an official narrative at all. You know, I'm okay doing that.
I don't know how much trouble that we'll be able to get ourselves in the not-too-distant future just by having a conversation like this.
That's why I got to have them as often as possible, John, because the day that the power snaps off, these are done. I hope you heard it while you had the chance. I hope you told a few friends, and I hope galactically some people want to come down and give me a hand.
You know, tune in. I guess it's turn on, tune in, and beam up while you can, because tomorrow there might not be anything to beam up to. It's just really that way. And to get to the very quick point, Tosh thinks some of those missiles may have made it into the country.
Into this country.
And I think he's right.
United
I think
States.
this whole border wave was orchestrated so that the cartels and the bad boys from a good number of them from the Middle East can get across the border. Because don't look now, folks, but Middle Easterners look just like the traditional appearance of the Mexican. Not the descendants of the Castilian Spanish, but the ones that have EZ as a suffix on their names. I mean, they go back, their bloodlines go back to where? Morocco and old Arabia. The garbanzo beans they eat today are the chickpeas that they're eating over there in the Middle East right now. I mean, these people are very closely related, so it does not surprise us. I mean, conversion to Islam in the prisons among Mexican prisoners was a hell of a lot higher than it was converting to Catholicism, I can tell you that, or converting to a Protestant view of Christianity. They're converting to Islam. And now you got these two morons that Americans, I think one of them's from Minnesota.
I think they were both from Minnesota.
He's 20-something years old, and he's a father of 9. And he goes over to fight with ISIS, gets himself killed. How did they find out 2 Americans got killed? Who's over there reporting this stuff? They're killing journalists. They just whacked out that Foley. James Foley, that's his name.
Yeah, I want to ask you about Foley, because I'm having more and more people in my circle, John, asking and saying that video was garbage. It's totally fake. It was staged. It's propaganda. Now, does that mean that he was already dead? Does that mean that they pretended that he was killed? And was the sister a crisis actor? We're seeing all of these conversations now. Have you developed a take on the Foley case specifically? Because that was kind of the one thing where it said, oh, they did that to one of our Americans, let's go get him. And that's what it takes to get, you know, the Pearl Harbor moment of, all right, I've had enough, let's go kill them all. You know, like, I feel like I'm getting Iraqed into this Syria thing again. I mean, what is your take on the whole Foley thing in general before it connects to ISIS and World War III as we're talking?
I see CIA all over Foley.
In what way?
Every way. His access to being in the stuff, for want of the word that we usually use. The whole presentation, the British Jihadi John rapper guy.
Yeah, really.
Photograph of him, all of that stuff out there on the beautiful plane, perfectly staged photograph, orange jumpsuit. I mean, Jihadi John's looking smart in his black rig with a nice, looks like a Galco shoulder rig.
I mean, they're saying a British rapper. It's like you have Ali G. You know, Borat, the character playing. We really have a British. Okay, so Ali G has just sparked World War III. That's really what just happened. Some goofy British rapper cut off his head, but we didn't get to see it. But
right.
it totally happened, and it was deplorable, and we have to stop him now. Just like chemical weapons, we have to stop them. You smell CIA.
Asks, would it help me get into ISIS if I've already beheaded one of me mates? Yeah, maybe. It's all a setup. The whole thing's a setup. And I think they open these borders so that they can. I think they're way behind. I think I think they know that they're about to be challenged, and there's a distinct possibility they'll be thrown out on their bums come November.
This being,
but I'll tell you, man, I think it's going to be a rough run.
This being
the November elections, and we may not have any.
This being
the
big government progressives.
I'm saying here. I mean, Brian, I like you. I'm a grown-up, and you can't just go around saying this stuff unless you really feel deeply. Your convictions are so strong that you feel like you must. Because, brother, the easy thing to do would be just to shut up, do some, nice middle of the road programming that's interesting, and it's got some good woo woo, and I'd like to get to that. I'd like to get back to discovery and exploration and inspiring things. But I'm telling you, we're getting close to the edge of something. And, people say it's the end of the world or the last days. Well, I don't know if it's the last days or not. They'll certainly do until the last days get here. But even then, it's not the end of the world. It's the end of the world as we know it. And that can be a very, very frightening thing. I don't know if 1,000 years of peace after Christ returns means that there ain't nobody to make any war. That's why there's 1,000 years of peace, because it's going to take 1,000 years to repopulate this rock that we live on.
Interesting interpretation.
To the point where we can actually have a decent-sized war. I don't know what it means. It also says that the day of the Lord shall come as a thief in the night. In other words, you don't get to know when it's going to happen. You may think, you have signs, you have portents, you have wars and rumors of wars. Well, nothing new about that. We don't get to know when. But I'll tell you this, and this I feel with the deepest of conviction, and that is, a concentration camp victim said one time, naked people do not resist. When all of your privacy has been stripped away from you, you are naked.
We're morally naked. We're naked in a lot of ways.
Yes, we are.
Big
but I
brother.
think we'll resist. I believe we will resist. But I think to put this thing back into the form of a republic, perhaps I was asking a guy today. Okay, irrespective of who started over there in the Middle East, we got a problem now. What do we do about it now? It doesn't matter. You and I are soldiers. We're out there in the stuff. We've been sent by a guy we don't know to go whack some other guys we don't know, like Donnie Brasco. It ain't nothing like the Army. You know that thing?
Forget about it. Forget
about it. But we're in the stuff right now. What are we going to do? I didn't get an answer. And it could be that the only way to overcome, I don't know, I'm just saying maybe, the only way to overcome these religious differences and all of the other differences that pit people against us in war. Maybe if the United States tears itself apart, bringing itself back into a state of a democratic republic, maybe that's what it's going to take. Maybe we can't say, listen, we're sorry that everything going back to like the battleship Maine was all a fraud. Vietnam was a fraud. We're sorry about napalming your children. We're sorry about drone striking your other children there in the Middle East. We're sorry about Africa. We're sorry about the Middle East. We're sorry about Europe. We're sorry about everything. We're sorry. Sorry's not going to get it. Maybe what we have to do is bleed a little bit. And maybe then if we do, because we go, by God, we're not going to live like this anymore. We run you. You don't run us. Get it? I just hope we got the guts to do it, because I'm telling you, if we don't, this country is done.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, not at all. Because what that reminds me of is a certain speech from a movie I finally watched the other day. I've seen bits and pieces of it, and I think you're onto it. So let's just hear a piece here.
All right.
As soon as the obligatory 15-second thing. I'll take this 15 seconds to remind everybody to go to caravantomidnight.com and check out what John B. Wells has been up to. And you also put your content on YouTube, you were saying. You have certain shows that have been made public, correct?
Yeah, a bunch of them up there, and people will enjoy it. And it don't cost nothing.
There you go. That's a good start.
So check it out, and please subscribe. We need your help. We can't stay alive without our blessed caravanners.
Yeah, and you know what? I said the same thing about Coast to Coast. You're a member of that fraternity as well, always will be. And you get that for free. But are you really up for 4 hours at the weirdest times of the night? No, not all the time, and you might have missed something. So you kick in a few bucks once a month, and you have access to 5 years of content, and you scroll around and you have a good time. So go check out the YouTube channel, and if you like it, subscribe to it. But what you were just saying, John, reminded me of this, and I just want to play it to remind everybody how relevant it is right now.